On a lighter note, here in the U.S., we are on the verge of St. Patrick's Day. Our cinema analyst, Bill Timoney, joins us again with some movie recommendations for the big day.
Thanks, Brian. Hi, Laura.
Good to have you here.
Yeah, tomorrow is St. Patrick's Day. I don't know how much you know about Ireland, if you are Irish or if you are Irish.
I think I've got a little bit of everything in me. I dressed green to just go with it.
Gotcha. Well, I'm 100% Irish.
Okay.
So, of course, I grew up with the culture. I grew up with the folklore and all that. And so I love Irish movies. We've got maybe 3 million people living on the island themselves who are Irish, but there are about 35 million people in America alone who claim some sort of Irish heritage, to say nothing of Irish in England and in Australia and all over the world.
Well, everyone claims it at the pub.
Everyone claims it's
Everybody's Irish.
Yes,
That's
yes,
true.
I
That's
know.
true.
So, you know, and most of them will be watching somewhere along the line. They'll be watching The Quiet Man, the John Wayne movie that John Ford went back to Ireland to make, and I go back and forth on it. I don't know if you've seen it. It's, you know,
I haven't seen it.
Well, it has the wonderful Irish charm and the brogue and all that, but it's also it's rather uncomfortable to watch as far as its gender politics go, if we shall say.
Right.
By today's
So
standards.
I go back and forth, but everybody's going to be watching it. But there's a lot more to Irish cinema than just The Quiet Man.
Well, what is it that you like about Irish films?
3 things. I love comedy, and the Irish are tremendous at comedy. So their comic films, their plays are just the best. I also like fantasy. The Irish are wonderful with magic, the folklore, the legends, from the leprechauns to the banshees. They're really glorious with how they tell fantasy stories. So I love that part of it. And also, I love films that deal with history, with the reality of our past. And the Irish have an incredibly rich and tragic and dramatic history. So
what do you recommend?
I pick 5 for you. The first thing I think anybody should see if they haven't been caught up to speed with Irish movies is called Darby O'Gill and the Little People. It was made by Walt Disney in 1959. And it is about the leprechaun. It's actually about the king of the leprechauns and an old Irishman who tries to catch him. Disney himself tried to make the public believe that the leprechauns had made the film. He wouldn't advertise any of the actors who played leprechauns.
I love it.
Oh, it's so good. In fact, the film starts with, we would like to thank King Brian of the Leprechauns for their participation in the making of this film. And it's really charming. Yes, if you watch it now and you're used to CGI effects, you might not buy them. But if you're little kids, I mean, when I was a little kid and we saw it, the banshee things that really frightened us, really gave us nightmares. So why not give that gift to your children? The very young ones can watch it and they will get sort of up to speed on it. And also, Sean Connery, a couple of years before he becomes James Bond, is in this film and even sings and dances too.
Oh, nice.
So if you're into that actor's
departure.
film, you got to see this. Along those same lines, talking about the sort of, you know, frightening things and mystery stuff, the Irish are great writing the ghost story. And every now and then an Irish ghost story comes to film. And here's something nobody knows. Nobody can ever, it's never been released really because it was a short film. In 1951, the great Orson Welles, this is after Citizen Kane, made a movie called Return to Glenascoil.
Okay.
Return to Glenascoil. It's actually, he started his career in Ireland, and he was shooting the film version of Othello at the time.
Oh,
and someone told him this ghost story, so he and the guys he was making this film with, Hilton Edwards and Michael McLeomore, made this short film about somebody telling him this short Irish ghost story. And like any good Irish ghost story, it sort of creeps upon you like a fine Irish mist, but then it leaves you with this cold feeling, like any cold winter Irish morning.
A couple of other movies that you wanted to bring to our attention.
I love Into the West.
Into the West.
Into the West is a terrific movie made by Irishman Gabriel Byrne. Jim Sheridan, who wrote and directed My Left Foot and The Field, he was involved with the making of the film. It's about 2 little boys who steal a horse that they believe has some magic to it. And it's great for children, but it's not a simple Walt Disney-like movie. The kids should be a little bit older, and your parents can watch it too. Brendan Gleeson, who's in the movies everywhere these days, also has a small part in it. It's interesting to see him at the dawn of his career.
We've got another one called The Wind That Shakes the Barley.
The Wind That Shakes the Barley recently won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival. Ken Loach, who is a very left-wing filmmaker from England who made Secrets and Lies, he's a wonderful filmmaker, and he committed to retelling the history of the Irish Revolution, 1917, 1918. It's incredibly authentic. As you would not be surprised to hear, some British critics really criticized the film, tore it apart, in fact, because if you're telling a story about the Irish Revolution, it was against the British. And those 2 British writers were later exposed as having not seen the film before they went and wrote their reviews about it. It's dramatic, it's heartbreaking, it's very, very powerful, and if you like history and you like that sort of drama, you want to go with The Wind That Shakes the Barley.
What about the movie Waking Ned Devine?
That's if you want to go the other way.
Okay.
If you want to have fun, if you want to laugh at the blarney, at the lilt of the Irish language and just their wonderful sense of off-kilter humor, go with Waking Ned Devine. It's about a tiny little town in Ireland, and about the only excitement they get is when they buy the lottery tickets and watch to see when the lotto is announced. And sure enough, someone from their town wins.
Wow.
And they try to figure out who it is in their town who won, only to discover that the person who won died the moment he heard the news. So they've got to find somebody in town to pretend to be the guy until the whole town can collect all the earnings. It's wonderful Irish character actors, British character actors, Ian Bannon, David Kelly, Finola Flanagan, and it's great to see a movie where people who have a certain age, it's not like a Hollywood film where everybody's 19 years old.
Sure.
Right.
People who have experience in the world and have judgment and taste and craft, and they're getting these lead roles. If you haven't seen Waking Ned Devine, that's the film for you for this St. Patrick's Day weekend.
If you look at these in collectively,
sure.
What is it that sets Irish films apart?
Definitely a sense of slightly off-center humor, because it is tempered with tragedy and sorrow, and that comes from hundreds of years of occupation. The Irish are an enslaved people. They're denied freedom and access in their own land. I mean, Ireland is called a terrible beauty, and it's terrible because you're living there, but you're being denied by the occupiers of your own country, the British, from any participation in it. So when they use humor as an escape, so they really value it, because what else do you have when you're denied everything else except your humor and your imagination? But it's always tempered with that sadness of knowing that there's the darkness as well.
Wow.
So
you
really
wax so poetically. You ought to be a writer.
And I'm all Irish.
A little bit of something for everyone in all these recommendations.
Some comedy, for fantasy, and also some
stuff for the kids
grown-up
too.
stuff. Yep.
Stuff for the kids as well. Thank
Enjoy.
you.
Bill Timoney, thanks much.